It was Halloween night. My friends and I decided we'd all go out trick-or-treating tonight. We were all in our mid-teens, so we weren't too old to go. My closest friend Gabriel's mom was reluctant about letting her son go out trick-or-treating after he was bitten by a dog of some sort a few nights back while walking home. But he managed to convince her. My name's Naomi. Our two other friends were Gary and Amanda. We had gotten our costumes at the Spirit Halloween store by the mall. They always had the coolest stuff, whether it was all the costumes, makeup, props, and my personal favorite, the animatronics. I was dressed up as Chucky's wife, Tiffany. Gary was dressed like Michael Jackson in his music video Thriller. Amanda was dressed as Hillary Clinton, the scariest costume of all. I'm just kidding, she was dressed like Elsa from Frozen. And Gabriel was dressed like Michael Myers. We all met over at Gabriel's house. We all had our bags and buckets, so we headed out. The streets were dark aside from the streetlights. The moon cast an eerie glow as it hid behind some clouds. We traveled to about 4 houses on our street till we got to the next one. I looked up at the moon. It was starting to peek out from behind the clouds. Just then I heard Gabriel groan in pain. I turned to see him clutching his bite wound. "Are you okay?" I asked. "Yes," he said. We continued on walking from house to house, sometimes stopping whenever Gabriel was in pain. He insisted he was okay nonetheless. We came to a street where the right side had houses a couple of yards across from each other, and the left side was nothing but dark woods. Gary and Amanda were hesitant about walking down the ominous-looking street, but Gabriel and I continued on. We approached the first house and Gary and Amanda ran up the steps. I stopped just at the bottom of the steps. I looked into the sky to see that the clouds had departed and the full moon was shining in all its wondrous glory. It was then that I heard a snarl from behind me. I turned to see nothing. That was just it. Nothing. Gabriel. Where was Gabriel? Gary and Amanda came back down the stairs and noticed that Gabriel was gone. "Where's Gabriel?" Gary asked. "I don't know," I said. I heard something and turned around, but he was gone. "Let's go find him," Amanda said. We crossed the street into the woods. The woods were so dark and dense that it was hard to see anything. We spent a half hour calling his name, but to no avail. I started to wander away from the others to do my own searching. I searched along the ground until I came across a footprint. It looked like Gabriel's shoe prints. I followed them. As I did, I noticed that something wasn't right about the prints. As they went along, they started to expand. Then I came across ripped remains that appeared to be Gabriel's shoes. I examined the remains, wondering what exactly happened. I noticed that the prints continued on without the shoes. I saw to my shock that these footprints were no longer human. They seemed more animal, like a big dog, or coyote, or a wolf. I followed some more until I came across Gabriel's ripped costume. The strap at the back of his Michael Myers mask was broken. As I examined it, I noticed something else as well. The environment. It was dead quiet. Then everything started getting darker around me. I thought the moon had moved back behind the clouds, but when I looked up, the sky was cloudless. So what was... Before I could make heads or tails of what was going on, I felt the hottest breath of air on my neck, then a low growl. Slowly, I turned around to gaze into the face of the most horrific thing I've ever seen. It looked like a wolf on steroids. It was standing on 2 legs, I started to scream for help. The creature picked me up by the front of my costume and lifted me high in the air. I pieced together everything that happened that night. Gabriel in pain from his bite, me hearing a snarl, then turning and Gabriel wasn't there, then finding his ripped clothes along with animal tracks, and this thing appearing from behind me. I realized this thing was Gabriel. I called out to it, repeating Gabriel over and over until I was screaming it. Then I heard a beastly howl. But it hadn't come from the beast holding me by my costume. It came from my right. Both I and the beast turned in that direction to see another one of his kind. It was on all fours in an attack pose. The creature I assumed it was Gabriel dropped to me and then got on all fours and approached the second monster. They circled each other, sizing each other up. They rotated so much I didn't know which was Gabriel. Then without warning, the battle began. They went back and forth, ripping their knife-like teeth into each other's throats, clawing and biting one another relentlessly. I didn't know if they were fighting over territory or which one got to devour me, but I didn't wait around to find out. I ran from the woods. I was back out onto the street. Gary and Amanda were there waiting for me. They ran over asking what had happened. I had my hands on my knees painting, trying to figure out a way how to explain what just happened to my friends. I didn't have to. Before I could get any words out, the battle in the woods made its way to the street with both creatures bursting from the trees. Gary and Amanda screamed while I just watched in awe. One creature knocked the other to the ground, then turned it towards us. It ran at us, but before it could get a hold of us, the other one grabbed it and pulled it back away from us. The wolf that saved us wrapped its enormous jaws around the other wolf's neck, and with a huge and quick sideways jerk, snapped its neck. The dead wolf fell to the ground. The victor, panting, turned towards us, and then ran off into the woods. My friends were pulling me with them, saying we had to go get help, but I pulled out of their grasp and ran off after the creature. I followed the tracks. They seemed to be turning into human footprints again. I eventually came across a strange sight. It was Gabriel. He was naked with deep cuts all over him. I called my friends over, and they helped me carry him back home. We explained to Gabriel's panic-stricken mom that Gabriel was jumped by guys with knives and they stole his clothes. His mother told us to go home and she brought him to the hospital. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about everything that had happened. I concluded that Gabriel was bitten by a werewolf and then became one. The hospital released Gabriel. He had stitches from where the wolf had attacked him. He seemed to have no recollection of what happened last night. That was probably a good thing. I also noticed last night a scratch mark on my neck. I figured it was from the wolf that came after me. I thought it wouldn't have any effect on me. That is until the night after the incident. I got up out of bed when I heard howling coming from outside. I opened my window and peered out into the night sky. The moon was full. I didn't know what disturbed me more. The fact that the howling was coming from Gabriel's house next door, or that I had the sudden urge to join.